Hi, welcome to BuyPoint ASX. I'm Mac in Oz, and we're looking at Orica, ORI, on the ASX. So here's Orica. Orica started life 150 years ago as Imperial Chemical Industries, ICI. And what you'll see from the chart here is firstly the long-term trend chart that I've drawn, and a second chart or a second line which is a level of support. These things develop over time and they are all relative. And the other thing to remember about these lines drawn on charts is that they are all relatively subjective. As usual, I've used ChatGPT to generate a 10-minute script describing the company, Orica, and investigating through the magic of AI the available conventional analysis of where the stock is now and what the technical indicators have to tell us about where the stock is going. Diving right in, here is a close analysis of ORI. Now, I have to admit, energy stocks are not my favourite. Hydrocarbons are a vexed reality in our world, and the future of the companies which trade in hydrocarbons is a challenge. What we're looking at here with Orica is essentially what I see as the last two chapters of the ORI price chart. You see long and short-term trends. You've got the long-term trend up here. The current stock price line is below the long-term trend, but you also see a short-term trend, which is the red line, which I'll talk about more in a moment. You also have the long-term level of support, and you can see that the stock has achieved a level above that long-term level of support. But what you also see is this grey line. What this grey line is meant to indicate is the phenomenon that we observe where levels of resistance become levels of support. What I'm suggesting, and again remember this is all subjective, is that the grey line can be seen back in this period as being a level of resistance. Since the stock price passed through that level of resistance, I'm suggesting that it has become a level of support. Again, subjectively, the idea that the price has now passed above not only a short-term level of support in territory where it is above a long-term level of support, it is also at a point where the short-term trend is indicating that the level of support that it has in the short term supports the stock moving up in correlation with the longer term trend. What I say to people is that if you're interested in the conventional wisdom generated by ChatGPT with reference to conventional analysis, freely available online, then you can pause the video to read that commentary. So here is that chart widened out a little bit. You may think that it's essentially just the same chart, but I wanted to show you the full extent of this red trend line. That's the trend that we're looking at today. I also wanted to give you the opportunity and to encourage you to correlate the MACD line with the price line. Now, it's a jumble of lines, but you will get used to interpreting them. What you have here, apart from the various trend lines and level of support lines, is the price action line, the what we call the SMA ribbon, made up of the 20-day, 50-day, 100-day and 200-day simple moving averages, red, green, gold and black. And what we see is that over the last 3 years, essentially since Orica recovered from the short-term shock of COVID, the stock has established a clear upward trend. Now here's that MACD line in greater focus. What you see is that there are general trends apparent in the MACD indicators as the stock rises and falls. There are two things we look for at the most basic level in the MACD if we're using it as our primary indicator for buy points. Those two things are that the lines are below the zero line and inflection points. The inflection point, what I call a buy point, is where the signal line, the blue line, cuts upwards and through the MACD line, the orange line. If you start looking for these indicators on your charts, you will see clear correlations between what's happening in the MACD line and what's happening in the chart above. And here I have indicated a number of buy points, simple buy points, because golden rule of technical analysis, you never act on simply one indicator. But here, there's a couple that I've missed. These are all classic indicators of a change in the movement of the price action line in an upwards direction. But this indicator is not enough in and of itself, and if you start looking at the MACD line in correlation to the price action line, you will start to see how that correlation varies according to other factors. Now, as ChatGPT has reminded us, there is also this SMA ribbon, which is an indicator that I'm using in addition to the MACD. Here it is again, the 20-day, 50-day, 100-day and 200-day simple moving average. Now, it might seem that this is a really obvious indicator, one that you could almost imagine without seeing it in front of you. The reality is what we're using these indicators simply for what they are, the application of years of collective experience. What you're looking for are correlations between the indicators and the reality that you see when you're looking at the day-to-day charts. Here are the fundamentals of the company. Now, part of the philosophy, for want of a better word, that we're using at BuyPoint ASX is that if you only invest in stocks in the ASX 300, big companies, mostly companies with a market capitalisation of $1 billion or more, then a lot of the work in monitoring and paying attention to what we call fundamental analysis is being done for you by the people who work for the company, not the least of which is the board of directors. But here you see some important elemental fundamentals: market capitalisation, price to earnings ratio, debt to equity. You should also be interested in the dividend and when it's paid, and these historical financials give you an indicator of the relative financial strength of the company, especially in the short term, because the decisions you make, whilst they might have a long-term perspective, they are going to have an effect in the short term. This is where I usually start my videos, with the unadorned price line. What I'm suggesting you do here is look at this simple chart and then start remembering all the overlays that you can put onto the chart in order to interpret it to make a profit. And here's the disclaimer.